My dad spoke 10, 11 languages. My mom speaks three, and my partner speaks four. I felt pretty monolingual up until my 20s, but when I started using music more in my studies, that really unlocked confidence and enjoyment of languages.
You're listening to the Speaking Tongues podcast. I'm your host, El Charisse. Each week, I sit down to a conversation with multilinguals where we discuss and celebrate language, life, and culture through our own perspectives. Welcome back to another episode of Speaking Tongues, and welcome back to our friend, eternally cool, eternally musical, Desta Haile, the founder and director of Languages Through Music. I'm so happy to have you back on the podcast again.
I'm so happy
Desta.
to be back. Thank you so much. I think the first time we were in lockdown, I remember being in lockdown the first round. So now it's nice to be out in the world again.
Yeah, it's been a few years. So I know that things are changing. Things have changed. We're evolving, we're growing
Slowly,
in a
slowly.
new phase of life. So I'm happy to, 2.0, that's a 2.0 in this, in
It
this
feels like
conversation.
4.0, but we can go with 2.0.
And I will tell my listeners that our original conversation was episode 47 if they want to go back and listen to it and connect dots with this one. But to start each episode, I like to ask the same question, which is, what is your first language and which languages have you learned to speak?
My technical first language, I think, is Thai because I was born in Thailand and my sister and my mom spoke fluent Thai. And I had a nanny who spoke Thai, and yeah, my dad was the renegade, so he was outnumbered though. So I think Thai was first, but then I left Bangkok when I was 3, and we moved to Barbados, and so that's where I really learned English. And then later in life, I learned French because we lived in Ivory Coast in Côte d'Ivoire, and then later we lived in France, and then Côte d'Ivoire, and then Belgium. And then I learned Portuguese, living in Brazil, working for a theater company. So that was really kind of baptism by fire. I had to learn quick. And then later I went to Cuba a couple times and I did a 2-week crash course at an Instituto Cervantes. So I learned Spanish. So I'd say those are my most functional languages. Thai, I've been reclaiming since lockdown. So I found an incredible Thai teacher, Kru Pimi.
Awesome.
And last year I got more into the writing, reading. So I'd say my highly functional languages are English, French, Portuguese, Spanish, and then my moderately functional languages are Thai, Turkish, Tigrinya.
Nice.
But I have studied a whole ton of others, but I can't even put them on a list yet. I've studied Kirundi, I'm trying to learn. I've studied Swahili, many others, but they'll come one day.
Yeah, you have a
Inshallah.
very linguistic life.
I
Full of,
do.
yeah, that's
I
amazing.
do. My
How do
dad
you,
spoke
tell me.
10, 11 languages. My mom
Wow.
speaks three, and my partner speaks four. So yeah, I felt pretty monolingual up until my 20s, but when I started using music more in my studies, that really unlocked confidence and enjoyment of languages. I wasn't enjoying it up until 20 or so, maybe a little earlier for French.
Yeah, I think that's normal though when you're young. You want stability, you want to just lock into something, right?
I just felt it wasn't entering my head. Like I was in French class all through school, but I just couldn't get with it. It wouldn't click until we were talking about French hip hop not so long ago. But yeah, until I found French hip hop that I really liked and I wanted to learn, I just felt I wasn't any good at languages.
Yeah. Well, that's not true.
Music has shown me the way.
Shown you the
Hallelujah.
way.
Because French class at school was not for me.
Yeah, but that's interesting. So you've had so many experiences in different parts of the world with different cultures, living, visiting, working, studying, musical connections, and things like that. So, having that real life experience, I imagine, helped you connect to language differently as it helped you to connect to people differently. Talk to us a little bit about how you've been able to do that and how having this travel experience and the ways that you've been able to travel around the world, how has that affected the way that you look at language and different cultures and communities?
I think languages are everything now. I think when I was younger, I was shyer. I didn't want to make mistakes or look stupid, or I felt like I could never catch up to all the languages I was supposed to speak. So I think it just gave me like anxiety earlier on, and the way it was taught, it was exams and grammar quizzes, and it wasn't put so much in context for me. But when I saw how my family could kind of switch in and out of different cultures and conversations so seamlessly, I was like, oh wow, I always admired it, but it just felt out of reach. And then it was really getting into music that helped. I got my first professional music work when I was 16, 17. And that for me was like, oh wow, like it was the first time I felt kind of in a group where there were so many cultures and languages happening, and there was a mix of all these different things, and I kind of felt more at home and more at ease to start expressing myself. I think school just wasn't really an environment where I felt I could be my full self, or I didn't really have teachers I connected with. In French class, we never really learned about anywhere that wasn't France, when, you know, there's so many other countries that speak French. So yeah, I think getting into music made me feel like, oh, I could be more expressive, I could be more communicative, and it wasn't judged on a kind of black, white, right, wrong scale. It was just varying degrees of communication and getting your point across and understanding others. But I always felt, yeah, really fortunate to have family and experiences all over the world. Then you do also have the other side of like, oh wow, I'll probably never have all my family and friends under the same roof or in the same hemisphere ever. So sometimes when I see friends who, you know, can walk to their uncles and aunts' house and their best friend's house, and all in the same city, I'm like, oh, that must be nice, you know. But it is also a gift to have been able to see so much of the world, and most of it now. Can you hear that? Sorry.
Great.
It's a South London ice cream truck in your podcast now. Yeah, I think it's a huge gift to be able to see the world like that. And shortly after music, I got into teaching, which has also been a huge gift because that's been the majority of my travels, especially for theater festivals, music gigs. So yeah, music and teaching has helped me see even more than I could have dreamt of.
Did you have a musical education in school, or did you have music classes in school?
Just choirs. Never really learned an instrument in school, and just choirs. I just liked singing in the choir. And then my father and my sister would play a lot of music at home. My dad was a poet, which is musical in its own way.
Yeah. What inspired you to trust music as this pathway to learning other languages and to connecting other cultures?
So my first big gig was with Zap Mama, and lots of languages and cultures in the group. There was Marie, of course, who's Belgian and Congolese. There was Tanya, who's like Mauritanian, Senegalese, Dutch. There was Patrick, who's a Haitian drummer. There was Chantal, who's from South Africa. But a lot of, you know, the rehearsals and the songs, we were speaking French. And so that was the first time after 2, 3 months, I noticed how much more French I could speak. I thought, oh, you know, that's amazing. But maybe it was just the French sitting in the back of my head that I'd learned at school.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to Brazil when I was 20, I didn't waste time with too many classes. I just really dove into the music. And I had this internship at this theater center, and my Portuguese after a couple months was better than my French. And I felt better about it, and I had more fun with it, and I was more confident. And so, but I still made an excuse. I was like, oh, maybe it's because I already had French, that then Portuguese was easier. So I was still like, maybe it's still not a thing.
Hmm.
And then I learned Spanish, listening to a lot of music, but then I was like, oh, but it's the same family. So maybe it's still not music. So I think for me, what really made me go, okay, no, it is actually music, is I got hired by a Turkish pop star. She's like Beyonce in Turkey.
Wow.
And I had learned a bit of Turkish before because I've been to Istanbul. I really loved it. But it's a super difficult language and very, very different to French and Spanish and Portuguese. And then I had to learn these 20 songs for this artist called Hadise. And I could kind of get by in Turkish. And people were like, Mashallah, you speak such great Turkish. And like, yeah, I was like, wow. I was like, if I could use music to learn a language that's actually really tricky and very different for me, then maybe there is something to it. So it took me 3, 4 tries before I was like, maybe I'm onto something. Yeah. I couldn't believe it when I was like, oh, let me see if there's an email address or a website and it was available. I was like, what? That made me feel like, oh, maybe because when it clicked, it felt so obvious.
Hmm.
And then no one had taken the website or the email. So I was like, oh, maybe it is kind of unique.
Yeah, it was
Try it.
waiting for you.
Exactly. It's waiting. I'm still waiting. It was waiting.
I want to talk about languages through music, of course. When you decided that you were going to do that, were you able to rely on your own process of learning the languages through the music, or was there a set of, you know, based on previous teachings of other teachers or any other kind of didactic process that you went through in order to develop the platform?
Well, in parallel to music, as soon as I finished school, like I did music and then I later did a BA in social sciences and media studies. But earlier than that, I did my TEFL certificate. So I was teaching English in Brussels, like at different schools, companies, etc. So I had that kind of pedagogical experience. And then I'd been teaching at the Theatre of the Oppressed, so I kind of had a performing arts teaching experience. I had the experience teaching in all these, like, even in Brazil, I was teaching business English. Later, I got my CELTA as well, which is a bit more rigorous than TEFL because you get watched when you teach and live feedback, and you're learning in a big group for like a month, 5 weeks.
Hmm.
So I kind of applied all my teachery knowledge to it, but
Hmm.
also with music. So I think whenever you propose something too creative, people get a bit like, is it rigorous enough, or is there a comprehension check, or oh, this looks too much fun? Can it actually be educational? So I think I was applying all of that too, kind of structure wise, in terms of this is what we're going to learn. These are the key elements. Here are the key grammar points. I think having that background as a teacher helped.
Hmm.
Gave me a little more, I guess, credibility, because a lot of schools get very stuffy and strict about you only teaching with their curriculum, only teaching with their books. They don't really want you freestyling or bringing in too much fun and games.
Right. I can see that. So you're bringing your teaching experience into this process. Tell me what the early days of languages through music were like.
So very, very first experience, I thought I would just try Portuguese because that was the most enjoyable for me to learn, and also just a big fan of Brazilian music, especially. And later I expanded that Angolan, Cabo Verdean, as well.
Hmm.
So I was actually teaching at a school in central London called Language Studies International. And so they kind of gave me one of the rooms for a few evening classes. And just a really nice random mix of people came through. And it was really a great testing ground because there were people who were into music, but there were also people who weren't that into music and they just wanted to try something different. They were complete beginners. There were people who'd traveled. There were people who hadn't traveled so much. And so it gave me a chance to start measuring what people were getting out of a workshop, usually about 50 new words and phrases. And it kind of appealed to lots of different learners because it was visual. We were watching the music videos or doing karaoke. People could move, people could sing, there were a couple people with learning difficulties like dyslexia who said, oh, it's so nice not to be so text-based or reading so much, but really I feel like they felt that they were learning through the song just as much as they would be in another class, if not more. And then from that, I think Memrise, I must have held a workshop there because I was doing a little work for them, the app. And then somebody booked me for my first festival. It's a really great art center called South Bank Center, and they had a festival called Africa Utopia. And a wonderful lady called Azia Pool booked me to do, I think, Swahili and Yoruba. And so that made me reach out to other teachers and explain what I did. And then from that, someone else booked me for a festival in Belgium, a really great one called Beaux-Arts.
Ooh.
From there, they gave me a grant in 2020. Like they reached out and they were like, please apply for this grant. We think you'd be great for it. And then from that came my podcast and developing resources with lots of other teachers and then interviewing lots of different artists and educators and cultural folks, media folks and travel folks. So like yourself. So that was really it. And I've blinked and it's been 10 years. So last year I had a party for the 10th anniversary and World Teachers Day here in London. I launched a masterclass, which has about 30 languages now. And I had my first festival in the Caribbean in April.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's really surreal because it was just a little side project, but it just kept going and going and going. And then last year was the first year I put full-time focus and energy towards it. And about 600, 700 people have signed up so far. So just building my little dream of being able to live doing languages through music as much as possible.
Yeah, that's
every day.
amazing. That's amazing. And people, I'm thinking as you're talking, like how much people crave music. And I think maybe people who realize that they crave music and they need music, but I think we do as human beings, we crave rhythm and we crave sound and we crave, I should hope, differences in sounds and
Yeah, I mean, it's good for our health. It's a mood lifter. It makes you just physically feel better. And when it comes to singing, singing makes you sit better and breathe better and, just do things that make you feel better physically. So it's a kind of win-win, I feel. And then my news this week is I signed a book deal with Teach Yourself. So that's my first book, hopefully end of 2026 about it. So yeah, I have to remind myself that I've come a long way from freestyling on the streets of London.
Wait, what?
Yeah, well, just freestyling my little workshops. This, I guess, making it official.
Okay.
Teach
You
Yourself has been
weren't
going
like
since the 30s.
you weren't like
Rapping.
beatboxing on the Bakerloo line, were you?
I might be actually because I might be soon.
What I love about learning languages through music is that I may have told you this before, but I've always tried to fool myself that if I listen to enough French music, I could learn French and it would be in my head and it would be on repeat because songs are, they are repetitive and if I hear the song 300 times, I'll know all the words and I'll know how to pronounce the words and I'll know this and that. And spoiler alert, that did not happen. I also think that music for me and I'm intermediate level where I am with my languages, is that trying to memorize song lyrics in other languages, like with no structure, is so hard because also there are lyrics that are not literal and
Mm-hmm.
lyrics that kind of don't, they're saying one thing, but you really have to have a better command of the language in order to know that, okay, he's saying pig, but he's not really talking about a pig. He's talking about,
Mm.
the universe or something like that.
Mm.
So, what I would love to know is how do you, if you have students like me who are just looking for the answers in the words themselves, how are you able to help them expand that? And how are you able to help them understand the greater meaning of what's there and
Yeah.
connect to that?
I think, yeah, song selection, starting with something really simple to start with. So where there's not a lot of hidden meanings or super difficult vocabulary, like using, like Amadou and Mariam, Sheikh Lo, Henri Salvador, really simple, really visual, really repetitive songs, because I think that helps people start to feel more confident before they dive into like psychedelic stuff or French rap. So I think it's, yeah, helping people structure it and then giving people a kind of intro to lots of different activities because a song is so flexible. You can do so much with it. You can listen to it, you can karaoke it, you can print out the words and cut them up and do a puzzle. You can go on to Quizlet and do little matching exercises.
Mhm.
You can find songs that have a version in English, a version in French. There's some songs that are translated all over. You can go to the artist's social media page and see what they talk about when they're talking to their fans or learn about the style of music they do. You can watch the music video and look something up about the city that they're filming in. There's like a million recipes for learning with a song. You can listen to it and write down the lyrics, even just the words that you catch. You can make flashcards. There's so many ways that you can spin it. So I feel that I'm often a terrible student. I feel the concentration levels aren't there, but music for me is the thing that keeps me engaged the longest, I
Mm.
feel.
Mhm.
And it's easy to come back to because it's just a 3-minute
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
It's not a 15-minute talk or you can go through the person's discography, you can watch interviews with them. I feel, yes, it's a song, but if it's a well-chosen song, you can spin off in so many practical directions because if you pick the right songs, like we're all singing about the same stuff everywhere in the world, and songs tend to use the 200-300 most common vocabulary
Mhm.
if you're not choosing super complex trippy stuff or hip hop that has lots of really complex amazing lyrics but maybe a bit up there for a beginner. This workshop this week I had a room full of 13-year-olds and the teacher warned me that they might not be super engaged, but they were like really about it. We had one Celia Cruz song, picked it, super simple lyrics, but you can do stuff in teams and compete. So it gets, I have to find this many words in this much time. Timing
Mhm.
yourself can, for me, if I say, okay, you have 15 minutes to do this, that gets me more focused than if I know, like, oh, I'll just take an hour. And then besides just doing the lyrics, I had lots of activities lined up so they wouldn't disengage. So, we had to make a playlist and they had to tell me, each group had to find songs from 3 different Spanish speaking countries and they had to
Mhm.
find styles. So I feel like, yes, it's music, but it's also the context that comes with. I feel like music comes with so much context. Yeah, so much context, but if well chosen can be easily
Yeah.
digested.
Yeah. What's part of that context for you that draws you in initially? If there's either an artist or a song, an album that you're coming into contact with for the first time, what do you find yourself drawn in by first?
I think what most of us do, is the emotion it inspires, That said, even if you choose a terrible song, you can still learn from it. I used to take Dutch classes in Brussels, and the teacher would bring in some really terrible music I would never play in my house, God forbid. But I still remember the lyrics from it, even though
Oh.
so it's not music can help you learn a language even if you don't like the music. That's what I'm
Mm,
trying to say. But for me, it's, do I like the song? Do I like the voice? Do I like the emotion? Because also a big part of how we memorize things is we can't remember something that we don't form some kind of emotional attachment to. So if a
mhm.
song really makes us go like, oh, what is this? Then of course you're more excited to
Yeah.
learn the meaning.
Mhm.
So that for me is a big one. The voice, what it inspires, what it makes me feel. I also love finding out the connections between different music. So for example, samba in Brazil was born of samba from Angola. The 60s French music, they called it yeye music because of yeah yeah, in the American and British songs of the time. High life in Ghana. Like I like the kind of historic context and how influence, how Cuban rumba also you find it in, like you find rumba in Congo.
Mhm.
So I like those kind of country hopping, country connections, historical connections, because I think that's a huge missing piece from school. We
Oh,
don't learn proper history at school.
right.
We don't learn about connections at school. We don't learn why 21 countries speak Spanish or why 30 something countries speak French. We don't learn it.
Now, why would they tell
So
us that? Desta?
imagine.
I wonder why they would leave that crucial part of
Imagine.
history out.
Imagine. So I just
Uh,
think music gives the full context,
right.
if it's well chosen, you can just pick some banal whatever song and skip over everything. But if you choose well, and I think it's so much easier to choose nowadays. We have YouTube for days, Spotify for days, amazing music bloggers, cultural bloggers, Instagram pages curating endless playlists for us. So I think it's easier to select now. I mean, and if you're into records and going buying records, then it's even more of an adventure. But even if you're not, it's very easy to do from the comfort of your yard, just
Hmm.
online. So
Yeah. I think
yeah.
about that a lot because there's so much music that I listen to lately. And I grew up listening to, top 40 pop music, R&B, hip hop, whatever. And now I feel like my musical taste would not even like my me 25 years ago would not even recognize my musical taste now because
Mm,
I've been able to find I've told you before, I listen to so much Brazilian music. I listen to so much high life. I listen to so much like 70s music from Congo, from I listen to so much salsa music that I just wasn't exposed to growing up and I didn't have any friends who listened to music from different parts of the world, but now that's all I listen to. And it's so
mm.
exciting for me. And, being able to hear those connections between, you know, salsa from like Fania Records to hear that connection to a song from Ghana or a song from Senegal or Nigeria.
Yeah,
Like,
it's so cool. It
yeah.
really it opens the world without you having to travel. Or like this week there were lots of Roma kids in the class, and
Mm,
we were talking about different styles, and I was playing samples and getting them to guess, was it tango or merengue or bachata or salsa or flamenco. And the Roma kids, when they heard the accordion in tango, they're like, "Oh, well, that's we play that in Roma music. My dad plays that. My uncle plays that." So it's just nice seeing completely different cultures, hearing something so far away, and not feeling too foreign to it, like
Yeah.
that I think is important, especially these days when everyone's fighting and warring and hating and all the rest of it. So
Yeah. Are there any connections that you've come across that have surprised you? Like something, even maybe a sample you heard in something that may have, you were surprised to find out it came from this other part of the world?
yeah, I was in New Orleans, I think 2 years ago, with my boyfriend who was supposed to play the jazz festival, but then the work visa didn't come through, blah,
Oh.
blah, blah. But we were still in New Orleans. We were staying with lovely friends of his just in front of the jazz festival. And everywhere I go in the world, I try and source Eritrean or Ethiopian food. It's just a hobby.
Mhm.
And I found a one owned by this, I think, Eritrean Angolan guy. Yeah, and so we picked up some food, we were walking back, and then across the street, I was like, "Are my eyes actually failing me?" Oh, I actually have the record. Let me find it for you.
Okay.
There was a little music store across the street called Domino Records, I think it was, and they had an Eritrean guitarist record in the window that I have on my shelf at home, and I was like, am I going crazy? Like, I'm sure across the street. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I walked into the shop. I was like, you have to Aldereta. I was like, I love that album. He's like, oh yeah, I released that album. I was like, what?
Wow.
So this little store in New Orleans had re-released a kind of legendary Eritrean guitarist, singer. Let me show you.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so Domino Sound, 2557 Bayou Road, New Orleans, Louisiana.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's cool, huh?
What year was that album in it, like originally released?
He was playing in the 70s.
Okay.
And when did he put this out? When did he re-release it? I'm not sure. But yeah, he was a musician back in the 70s. Yeah, it's his
Nice.
guitar singles 1970 to 1973 originally came out on Yared Music, this
Mm-hmm.
famous label. But yeah, when I was walking through New Orleans minding my business and I saw this, I was like, the world is actually very small and
That's
entertaining sometimes.
amazing. So when you're developing and languages through music is growing, it's expanding, you have different languages that you're offering from your beginnings over the last 10 years, and you're growing with languages that you don't speak and languages that you're not too familiar with. What does that process look like for finding the songs and finding the developing the materials that will teach the language through those songs?
hmm So I find minimum two people to work with,
Mhm.
two other people. So the system so far is we pick 30 songs. I asked them to pick a range of new music, old music, different range of styles, different reasons for including the song. And then we pick 30 keywords from each song. And then where we can find karaoke versions, we put it in. So each language has a resource that's like 80 pages long, really full of YouTube links, Spotify links, teacher audio for the keywords. We don't want to have like overwhelm with full lyrics, but we suggest people aim to learn these 30 keywords each so that with 30 songs, they have at least 1,000 words, which is some platform ages ago called Speak to the Future estimated that if you had 1,000 words in a language, you could get by. I don't know how they measure these things, but and then build on lyrics from there. And for the Tigrinya one, for example, I asked four people I knew with their own either Tigrinya music platforms or Tigrinya education platforms to recommend their favorite songs. And also the teacher I was working with recommended some songs. So I outsource. Yeah, I like interviewing people, getting lots of different opinions. I've learned so much. We have a Hindi resource and a Zulu resource, and asking the teachers like why they put in what they put in, and you get such incredible answers. Teachers who are like, "Oh, I've never thought about it, but Yeah, picking 30 songs tells you so much about a people. Like if you know
Mm,
like 30 songs that are like big tunes for a certain community or culture, that can tell you so much about a people. So it's no like exact science, but I figured if we have 30 eclectic songs,
hmm
30 keywords each, that's a really solid base. And the songs have
Yeah.
been like cherry picked by a lot of really knowledgeable folks, very different folks. So we have the teacher audio and we have like Quizlet so people can kind of choose how they want to revise. And it's a leg up really, like it's not spoon feeding folks, but it is a huge amount of resource to get people started.
hmm
Um, a lot of the teachers I found on italki, or it was people I knew from before, or Natakalam, which is another platform where I found some great teachers, or it was personal friends. Yeah, it's been a lot of really interesting collaboration.
hmm What do you think that you've learned about a culture through these 30 songs?
So, for example, there was a really great post recently that one of my friends made about Tigrinya, but I've noticed it the same in Brazilian music. When people are under occupation or under a dictator, often music gets censored. And so artists always find a way around that. Um, Gilberto Gil and Caetano Veloso, two very famous Brazilian artists, they were exiled to London during one of the many long dictatorships Brazil has had. So you kind of learn the hidden meanings behind songs. So you learn it on a very simple level. He's saying this, and then later you're like, oh, but that means they're referring to this, or oh, so when you get that, you feel really like deep in the game. You
hmm
just feel like, oh, I understand now because during that period of time, so and so was in power, or they were in exile, or they couldn't write that,
Right.
I remember when just before Bolsonaro got elected again, Milton Nascimento, he was sharing on his Instagram, or whoever runs his Instagram was sharing lyrics that had been redacted under previous dictatorships, and he was,
hmm
I mean, he's still doing so much stuff. He just did music with Esperanza Spalding, but he was asking people like, do you want this to happen again for us to have people in power who are banning certain words we can say or not say?
Yeah.
No names mentioned.
No.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting with music. You can tell again, depending which music you're choosing and listening to, you can tell a bit about the historical context. I like
Yeah.
reading about history.
That's what I think is so, I do too. I think that's so wonderful because it, even reading about history, and I think it's easy to think that you pick up a book and you read about the history and the words are on the page and you have all the information, but music, food,
Hmm.
so many things, those two come to mind right now, but so many things fill in the gaps. And I think what a lot of the history books don't necessarily tell us is the temperature of the people at the time. And you can tell
Yeah.
so much of that, especially through our musicians, our poets, our chefs, our people who cook and
Mm.
things like that. And it creates a full picture. It creates a whole story. And
So much so.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
so important.
hmm
Last time, second to last time before last, I went to Italy. A colleague was hosting me and another colleague for a weekend with her. And I remember picking up a book in some little flea market, and it was a book collection of letters of the Italian resistance against Mussolini, writing to their families from prison.
Mm,
And it was just like, I'd never thought about Italian resistance because my side of that history is my family was under that occupation in
right.
Eritrea. Even looking across, I don't know if you can see it, but I have this painting here, which is the
Wow.
It's the Battle of Adwa, and it's when the Italians were mashed up by Ethiopia
Yeah.
and the Eritreans who were fighting against us. So I have this very, like, in my head when I think of Mussolini, it was like, oh, the whole country was pro Mussolini, which is stupid, right? But you just don't think about it. It's like everything from my side of history, from my family side of history, was like, Italy was this. Italy was like bunch of fascists under Il Duce, right? I mean, I love Italy. I've been several times. Italy's great. But I'd never, because all the history like I had absorbed of that time was like just Mussolini. And it was this little book where I was the first time in my life thinking about Italian resistance. I was like, oh my God, of course. Like there's always resistance to fascists. Always. But I mean, it's the first time I had it in my hand, in personal words, in that really made me think like, wow, like, yeah, obviously not the whole country was on one political side. But yeah, it's really, you're right. It's music, it's books that really drive that home, give you a more kind of full picture.
Yeah.
And often when it's a majority side, you get that majority image or picture or whatever. I don't know. You hear more about the French resistance but yeah, when it's within their own people, yeah, I don't think you hear about it as much.
Yeah.
Even now in the States with all the protests and stuff, we don't see that on TV so much. It's more from friends that I'll hear it, but it's not broadcast so much.
Interesting. I'm very interested to know what people outside of the US are seeing. Because I know what we're seeing here.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about looking at musical both sides of it, like in taking an era where there was conflict between two sides and the music that was made by people on either side of that? Have you ever thought about doing a side by side or a comparison?
I've done it just personally, and always the music that is the opposition is better. Always the people fighting for like freedom, the music is just always better.
Yeah.
The people who are paid to compose for the government, that always sounds whack. It always sounds terrible. Always sounds terrible.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, some of the best songs are fight songs, resistance songs, and
Protest, yeah.
protest songs. For you, what kind of emotions, memories does music unlock when you think about your life and living in different places and having different experiences? What kind of music like brings you back, unlocks happy memories or good times?
Yeah, I think it's always such a mix of like where you were, who you were listening to it with, but there's always music that I love. I love a lot of Congolese music. My dad had cassettes when I was a kid, Congolese music. And then in Brussels, when I first started getting into music work, I worked with a lot of great Congolese artists and musicians. Well, Maridon, but also Baloji and Dizzy Manjeku, who was a guitarist for Franco, who played with both bands. I just have huge respect for Congolese music. I love reggae. I love reggae, and I remember hearing it a lot, especially when we lived in Barbados. I got to visit Jamaica in 2015, and it was just incredible music everywhere. I love jazz, and I've been lucky to perform or go to so many jazz festivals. So it's a really, really long list. It's a really long list. And I think over the past year, especially putting together or co-putting together resources for 30 languages, that's 900, 900 new songs that I've been listening to over the past year. I love Eritrean Ethiopian music, although that's not something I heard so much as a kid. It's something I got into later. I'm listening more to Burundian music because I live with a Burundian. So yeah, there's so many, but maybe yeah, some of the artists I did backing vocals for, like a New Yorker, Joe Batan, love his music. And I think of the great times I had like performing that music with him. Or Finley Quay, who I first signed with when I came to London, who's an artist who has roots in Scotland and Ghana. There's just a long, long playlist.
I find with musical people, it's impossible to ask for favorites. Who's your favorite? Who do you love the most? Who are you listening to now? Because it's like you're always listening to someone now. You have a long list of favorites, a long list of go-tos, a long list of memories attached to certain genres of music or certain musicians, good or bad
Yeah.
memories. So it's like, and you have the best playlists. I told you this
Thank
before.
you.
You have the best
Thank you.
playlist. So
I
it's like,
try.
I think that's, the way that music really affects our memory and affects our connections. Like there are songs for better or worse that I hear and it takes me like right back to the most random thing that I didn't even think of at the time. Like I heard this Mariah Carey song the other day and it always reminds me of my first job, which was
Mm.
for a landscaping company.
Oh, how
So
random.
I know it always takes me back to like raking leaves and like sweeping up like leaves and branches and things that have fallen. And it's so Mariah Carey glamorous that I always laugh at myself.
She might be like in the leaves, throwing the leaves up and dancing to them. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just can't predict. My first job was in an Aveda hair salon in
Mm,
Brussels. I think I
mm-hmm,
was 16 or 17.
mm-hmm.
And I was the receptionist, but they were just exploiting me. They had me doing people's highlights. They had me cleaning stuff, doing coffees. I mean, just exploitation 101. And this mad Danish woman who worked in there would play Frank Sinatra every day for the entire, I won't swear on your podcast, summer. So I can't listen to Frank Sinatra. I hate listening to Frank Sinatra. I just really can't stand it. There are two singers that actually make me feel violent. One is Frank Sinatra, Miss Me with Frank Sinatra,
Mm-hmm.
and Chet Baker.
Damn, really?
Chet Baker. I'm like, just play the fucking trumpet. Oh, what's wrong? I'm like, don't sing. Just play the trumpet.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're just different associations. And then, if you hear music at a time in your life where you're not enjoying yourself, or you hear too much of it, or you're forced to hear it, or you don't like the person that introduced you to it, music is emotional. I do not like Chet Baker. I do not like Frank Sinatra.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge Sinatra fan. I like Frank Sinatra. He has a handful of songs that I like. I don't go back to him,
Yeah.
Um, I had a Chet Baker moment. And you know what my Chet Baker moment is? When I went to Hawaii, I was on a plane, and you know how they have now you can listen to albums on planes, and they had Chet Baker sings. Sorry.
Okay.
So sure. And I was like, oh, I'll listen to this. And that's my association with Chet Baker is being in Hawaii. I haven't listened to him in a long time, but damn, I'm shocked.
Yeah, I hate it. And
Okay.
especially there's that song whose lyrics I hate so much. My Funny Valentine. Have you ever listened to the lyrics of that song?
It's
That
horrible.
song's just rude.
Terrible.
Rude. I hate that song. I think that might have been one of the first songs I heard Chet Baker sing, and I was just like, I don't like this at all. So yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's hard to find a favorite, but it's easy for me to pinpoint the ones that I don't.
That's
I don't
fair.
like.
Yeah, that's fair. So you always have an ongoing carousel roster of languages that you are learning. What are you working on now?
Well, active lessons at the moment. I finally found a Tigrinya teacher I really, really dig. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've been taking Tigrinya forever, but I finally found a teacher who's really awesome. I had one really great one with Uncle P before, but like this guy, Nahom, is really wonderful. He's really, yeah, I feel like I'm making the most progress I've made with him. And I'm trying to learn Kirundi
Mm-hmm.
because my partner's from
Burundi.
Burundi.
Mm-hmm.
And we're hoping to go back there November or December this year.
Nice.
So those are my kind of two active ones. I've been trying to watch like films and listen to the language to music resources, and also Thai. So I spent 4 or 5 months in Thailand last year,
Mm-hmm.
but don't use Thai when I'm not in Thailand. So I'm trying to find ways to keep it alive, like
Mm-hmm.
films or music. I watched a really trippy Thai film this week called Tropical Malady. Completely mad. Very interesting. So yeah, those are the 3 languages I'm trying to get better at the
Yeah.
moment.
How about Kirundi? How's that going?
Kirundi is quite hard. Some great music, and that's been helpful. And I downloaded a really interesting audiobook. So I'm all about music, of course, but what I like with this audiobook is that it uses sound effects.
Mm.
So instead of saying, happy is this, it'll be like, yay is, and then I'll give the Kirundi, or crying is this, it'll say, and then you hear the Kirundi word. So I was like, wow, this is the first time I'm hearing a language method with sound effects, as it were, instead of music. So it's, you'll hear a plane taking off, or you'll hear the noise of an airport, and then like, you hear the word for airport. So I quite like that. It's so simple, right? But I'd never had that before. And so that's been fun. And I found a teacher on italki for a while as well, Alban. But it's challenging.
Have you noticed it's similar to any other languages that you've studied? Or any similarities, like structure-wise or even vocabulary?
There's a few words so the Germans were there for a while. So there's a few words actually from German. Random stuff like Kartoffel, like potato, and like school, like random German words. There's some random French words. And also, I think there's quite a lot in common with Swahili.
Okay.
I have a great Swahili teacher who helped me put the materials together, and we did some lessons, Miriam, and she speaks Kikuyu. And so when I counted to 10 in Kirundi, she was shocked because it sounds just like Kikuyu. So being a Bantu language, it does have a lot in common with like Kikuyu, Shona. But it is tricky. But I'm determined to get to some kind of level before we go back in December.
Yeah, I love that. This is exciting. Let our listeners know where we can find languages through music online if we want to start or continue our language journey. If we want to work with you, get in touch with you in any way, please let us know how we can.
Languages to music everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of that. And then also languages2music.com. And there's a podcast as well called Languages to Music, everywhere that you listen to podcasts. And yeah, we're there.
Consistency.
Every day.
I love
Consistent.
it.
Yeah, I think so.
Amazing. I will add links to the show notes for this episode so that people who want to get in touch with you can click and do so right away.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast for a second time.
I know, a second time.
Veteran.
You're my first return guest.
Return.
Desta Haile.
Once again.
You have a book coming out.
I have 2 books coming out.
2 books coming out. Please
My goodness.
Tell us.
So, I mean, coming out is big words. I literally just signed the thing, so it might not come out till like 2027. But one is going to be a Languages Through Music book with Teach Yourself. which is a well-established independent learning publisher. They've been printing since 1938, which is incredible. And the second book is not related to languages. It is related to New York, and it's one of the first Black model agencies, and my dad was signed to it in the 60s. So it's been a project because I'm a big history nerd, researching it, meeting the people who ran it, amazing ladies who I'm still in touch with to this very day, interviewing the other models. So it's a nonfiction look at this model agency called Black Beauty. I won runner-up for a nonfiction prize in December with a Nigerian publisher called Cassava Republic Press. So hopefully that will be out next year. It'll be out first, and then when people are making their New Year's resolutions for languages, then the Languages to Music book will be out. And both books have been a long time bubbling in my brain. So exciting news.
That is very exciting.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a long time thinking about it.
Yes, this is exciting. And then when you do your press run and your press tour and you have to come through New York,
I'm going to have so many parties. So many parties. So many parties. When these things come out, my goodness, all I'm going to do is throw parties.
Well, I hope to get an invitation.
You're going to be guest of honor. You're going to be the New York guest of honor.
I'm going to go out and get an outfit just for this occasion so that I'm ready. I'm ready.
Good, because I got headphones just for this occasion.
The Teach Yourself book, what is that going to entail? Is that
So it's going to be Languages to Music condensed into a book, and also kind of more bite-sized PDFs. So we'll do like 20 different language PDFs with playlists and key vocab. So as opposed to my huge chunky resources, it'll be like a bite-sized cute intro to really step-by-step how-to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's major. That's
yeah.
major.
Yeah, and I'm excited about getting languages some airtime that don't often have airtime.
Mm-hmm.
One of the polyglots that I interviewed, who speaks like 27 languages, years ago when I had him on my podcast, he was like, "Wow, you have resources for Kenya, Rwanda? No one ever has resources for my languages." So I just really like having that representation.
Yeah.
Even though they're not necessarily the most signed up for. Like, that's also why I have with the Language to Music Masterclass, you get all the languages, because I feel like some languages get all the airtime and then the other languages not at all. So I like being able to, share the language, share the sound. I remember Ngugi wa Thiong'o, this Kenyan writer, once saying, "A language never out-languages another language." And I was like, yeah, I understand that. So, yeah, it'll be good to use the opportunity to get more attention on different languages and the value and the beauty of other languages that people may not have heard of.
Yeah. I
in these London
completely
streets.
understand that. I try to do that with this podcast and
Exactly.
make sure that we're including languages that need to be included, that should be at the table as well.
Yeah.
So
Because there's so many things that you can't translate from language to language. There's so many concepts and so many, it just stretches your brain in a nice way.
Yeah.
Brain and heart.
Well, I'm looking forward to this book.
Thank you very much.
To the Black Beauty
Thank you very
modeling
much.
agency coming out.
Much.
You've been doing big things. I'm so happy for you. So proud of you. So
Thank
happy
you,
to call you my
Elle.
friend.
Thank you, my dear. I feel like I've just been a little hermit for the past year working on these books, and I have more hermit days ahead. So I'm looking forward to actually being a party person instead of a hermit. Yeah.
Any day now. It's coming. It's
Please,
coming.
God.
It's coming. It's coming. Thank you so much, Desta,
Thank
for
you,
this
Elle. Thank
conversation.
you.
The last question I want to ask you, and I modified this question for you.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I usually ask if you have any jokes or popular sayings, tongue twisters, cool slang words, idioms, words of wisdom, words of advice in any of your languages. Um, but I also want to ask you if you have a lyric in a non-English song that resonates with you and that you'd like to teach us
Mm.
and share us.
Oh, yeah. There's a nice, very simple lyric. I was listening to, well, there's this really great artist I really like. There's so many, but I'll think of this is the first one that comes to mind, called Itamar Assunção. Itamar Assunção. And his daughters have created this incredible website for him. It's like an online museum of his life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very futuristic and like I guess he'd be like the Brazilian Sly Stone,
Okay.
but maybe a bit more psychedelic.
How can
If
one
that
be more psychedelic than Sly Stone?
you have to listen to him. You have to listen to him.
Okay.
But that's the closest I can think for comparison. And so his daughters have made this amazing kind of very futuristic website for him that I love. And he has a really beautiful song. The first song that came to mind when I heard your question, which is a bit of a play on words. It's called Milagrimas, which is miracles. It's so simple and so poetic and beautiful. It's a cada milágrima sai milagre. So, cada milágrima sai milagre. It's really, really lovely. So, milagrimas is kind of like a play on words because milagre is miracle.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but he's kind of put together mil lágrimas, which means 1,000 tears.
Mm.
So, mil lágrimas is literally 1,000 tears, but he's kind of referencing miracles. So it's just, yeah, it's really beautiful. So it's literally with each 1,000 tears, a miracle comes out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A cada milagrimas sai milagre. So milagrimas is like an invented word, but he's referencing how every 1,000 tears you get a miracle.
A cada milágrima
Sai
sai
milagre.
milagre.
Yeah. Cada milágrima sai milagre. Cada milágrimas. And just the melody is just beautiful.
Oh.
And it's so simple.
Yeah.
So yeah, with every 1,000 tears, a miracle comes out.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing that.
You're welcome. It's a beautiful song. Please listen to the song. It's just brain meltingly beautiful.
Beautiful. As I said, you have the best playlists and
Thank you. Thank you.
before I let you go, just want to ask one last question. If, let's say we're in London. No, yeah, because you don't like New York. So let's say we're in London.
Sorry.
But let's say that we are about to go our separate ways. And the first language that comes to mind, what is the best way to say goodbye?
There's a nice one in Tigrinya. You say "Aitat fi," and that means "don't get lost."
I love that.
Yeah.
I
You say-
said fee.
Yeah, don't get lost.
Desta I touch fee.
Yeah. I also like how Brazilians say tudo de bom, like all the best, all that's good.
Tudo de bom.
Tudo de bom. They say, I think in Spanish they say something similar, but they say fica com Deus, like stay with God. Or in Spanish people say go with God, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So those are a few nice ones. Yeah. I mean, I often just revert to keep it real. But Keep it real or stay black, but those in other languages, yeah, those are three that I quite like.
I love that. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing those.
Yeah.
And I'll be talking to you soon.
Awesome, Elle. Thank you so much. And I love your podcast. And I'm still stalking Trevor Noah to come be a guest. So we'll get
Thank
him
you.
on here soon.
Yes, we have to. Bye.
Bye, my dear. Thank you.
New episodes of Speaking Tongues are available every Monday, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to like and share episodes with other language lovers like yourselves.